evening. So we're here to pick up where we left off. We'll be starting with chapter 15 of Percy Jackson. I'm going to summarize the first few pages because this is a long chapter. But we left off with Percy and Grover and Annabeth. They basically drew a bunch of attention to themselves in St. Louis. They destroyed the arch, and Percy Jackson is now a known fugitive on the run. And so they made it back to the train and they're headed to Denver. When they get to Denver, it's June 14th. It tells you what day it is, 7 days before the summer solstice, which we know is the deadline. Percy, Annabeth, and Grover use iris messaging to contact Half-Blood Hill, which iris messaging is when the rainbow goddess Iris carries messages to the god or for the gods. So they go to a car wash and they spray some water and they get to talk to Luke. Chiron is actually busy taking care of a fight. Luke tells them that camp has been, it's basically the next Trojan War. All-out war is broken out at camp because since the Zeus and Poseidon standoff, and he says that Aphrodite, Ares, and Apollo are backing Poseidon, and Athena is backing Zeus. So then Percy tells Luke everything that happened so he can tell Chiron, and Luke is really worried about Grover, and Percy kind of feels like something's up, but he can't quite figure it out because Luke keeps saying, checking on Grover. But finally at the end, Luke tells them it had to be Hades that took the Master Bolt because you'd have to be invisible to sneak in the throne room. And Hades, of course, has the Helm of Darkness that can make him invisible. So he says it has to be Hades that took it. So that's kind of where we leave off. And then they've used all their money, and here we are. They used their last quarters to buy the little car wash sprayer, the last 75 cents, and they used their drachma to as a sacrifice to use the iris messaging. So here we are. A few minutes later, we were sitting at a booth in a gleaming chrome diner. All around us, families were eating burgers and drinking malts and sodas. Finally, the waitress came over. She raised her eyebrows skeptically. Well, we want to order dinner. Will you kids have money to pay for it? Grover's lower lip quivered. I was afraid he would start bleeding or worse, start eating the linoleum. Annabeth looked ready to pass out from hunger. I was trying to think up a sob story for the waitress when a rumble shook the whole building. A motorcycle the size of a baby elephant had pulled up to the curb. All conversation in the diner stopped. The motorcycle's headlight glared red. Its gas tank had flames painted on it and a shotgun holster riveted to either side, complete with shotguns. The seat was leather, but leather that looked like, well, Caucasian human skin. The guy on the bike would have made pro wrestlers run for mama. He was dressed in a red muscle shirt and a black jeans and black leather duster, with a hunting knife strapped to his thigh. He wore red wraparound shades, and he had the cruelest, most brutal face I had ever seen. Handsome, I guess, but wicked. With an oily black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred from many, many fights. The weird thing was, I felt like I had seen his face somewhere before. As he walked into the diner, a hot, dry wind blew through the place. All the people rose as if they were hypnotized, but the biker waved his hand dismissively, and they all sat down again. Everybody went back to their conversations. The waitress blinked, as if somebody had just pressed the rewind button on her brain. She asked us again, "You kids have money to pay for it?" The biker said, "It's on me." He slid into our booth, which was way too small for him, and crowded Annabeth against the window. He looked up at the waitress, who was gaping at him, and said, "Are you still here?" He pointed at her, and she stiffened. She turned as if she'd been spun around, then marched back toward the kitchen. The biker looked at me. I couldn't see his eyes behind the red shades, but bad feelings started boiling in my stomach. Anger, resentment, bitterness. I wanted to hit a wall. I wanted to pick a fight with somebody. Who did this guy think he was? He gave me a wicked grin. "So, you're old seaweeds kid, huh?" I should have been surprised or scared, but instead I felt like I was looking at my stepdad, Gabe. I wanted to rip this guy's head off. "What's it to you?" Annabeth's eyes flashed me a warning. "Percy, this is..." The biker raised his hand. "It's okay. I don't mind a little attitude, long as you remember who's the boss. You know who I am, little cousin." Then it struck me why this guy looked familiar. He had the same vicious sneer as some of the kids at Camp Half-Blood, the ones from Cabin 5. "You're Clarice's dad," I said. "Ares, god of war." Ares grinned and took off his shades. Where his eyes should have been, there was only fire, empty sockets glowing with miniature nuclear explosions. "That's right, punk. I heard you broke Clarice's spear." "She was asking for it." Probably. That's cool. I don't fight my kids' fights, you know. What I'm here for? I heard you were in town. I got a little proposition for you. The waitress came back with heaping trays of food cheeseburgers, fries, onion rings, and chocolate shakes. Aries handed her a few gold drachmas. She looked nervously at the coins. But these aren't. Aries pulled out his huge knife and started cleaning his fingernails. Problem, sweetheart? The waitress swallowed, then left with the gold. You can't do that, I told Aries. You can't just threaten people with a knife. Aries laughed. Are you kidding? I love this country. Best place in Sparta. Don't you carry a weapon, punk? You should. Dangerous world out there. Which brings me to my proposition. I need you to do me a favor. What favor could I do for a god? Something a god doesn't have time to do himself. It's nothing much. I left my shield at an abandoned water park here in town. I was going on a little date with my girlfriend when we were interrupted. I left my shield behind. I want you to fetch it for me. Why don't you go back and get it yourself? The fire in his eye sockets glowed a little hotter. Why don't I turn you into Prairie Dog and run you over with my Harley? Because I don't feel like it. A god is giving you an opportunity to prove yourself, Percy Jackson. Will you prove yourself a coward? He leaned forward. Or maybe you only fight when there's a river to dive into so your daddy can protect you. I wanted to punch this guy, but somehow I knew he was waiting for that. Ares' power was causing my anger. He'd love it if I attacked. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. We're not interested, I said. We've already got a quest. Ares' fiery eyes made me see things I didn't want to see. Blood and smoke and corpses on the battlefield. I know all about your quest, punk. When that item was first stolen, Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out a weapon that powerful, he licked his lips as if the very thought of the master bolt made him hungry. Well, if I couldn't find it, you got no hope. Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told him my suspicions about old corpse breath. You told him Hades stole the bolt? Sure, framing somebody to start a war. Oldest trick in the book. I recognized it immediately. In a way, you got me to thank for your little quest. Thanks? I grumbled. Hey, I'm a generous guy. Just do my little job and I'll help you on your way. I'll arrange a ride west for you and your friends. We're doing fine on our own. Yeah, right. No money, no wheels, no clue what you're up against. Help me out. Maybe I'll tell you something you need to know. Something about your mom. My mom? He grinned. That got your attention. The water park is a mile west on Delacy. You can't miss it. Look for the Tunnel of Love ride. What interrupted your date? I asked. Something scare you off? Ares bared his teeth, but I had seen this threatening look before on Clarice. There was something false about it, almost like he was nervous. You're lucky you met me, punk, and not one of the other Olympians. They're not as forgiving of rudeness as I am. I'll meet you back here when you're done. Don't disappoint me. After that, I must have fainted or fallen into a trance, because when I opened my eyes again, Ares was gone. I might have thought the conversation had been a dream, but Annabeth and Grover's expressions told me otherwise. Not good, Grover said. Ares sought you out, Percy. This is not good. I stared out the window. The motorcycle had disappeared. Did Ares really know something about my mom, or was he just playing with me? Now that he was gone, all the anger had drained out of me. I realized Ares must love to mess with people's emotions. That was his power, cranking up the passions so badly they clouded your ability to think. It's probably some kind of trick, I said. Forget Ares. Let's just go. We can't, Annabeth said. Look, I hate Ares as much as anybody, but you don't ignore the gods unless you want serious bad fortune. He wasn't kidding about turning you into a rodent. I looked down at my cheeseburger, which suddenly didn't seem so appetizing. Why does he need us? Maybe it's a problem that requires brains, Annabeth said. Ares has strength. Strength, that's all he has. Even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. Oh my gosh. I can't turn the page. Seriously. But this water park, he acted almost scared. What would make a war god run away like that? Annabeth and Grover glanced nervously at each other. Annabeth said, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to find out. And I'm going to stop there, and I will do the rest of chapter 15 in a second part. So I will see you in the second part.